Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering and Play. We are back in Space Engineers, and I was going to turn this into kind of a little bit of a tutorial regarding large-scale miners. Now, nothing graceful about any of these miners that I'm working with today, but wanted to show you at least a little bit about some of the possibilities. These are not practical for planetary use. Obviously, this one's an ion thruster. This one's 121 drills on the front. This one over here, which I don't know if I've actually used this in one of the videos or not, is 196 drills. Now this one is much better equipped, which is why we're playing with this particular one. You can see one over here that's kind of gutted, and the reason I gutted it was I want to build that with you, and you can kind of see approximately how I put all this together. So it's kind of going to be a tutorial, but I'm not going to go into all the gory detail, mostly because I think you know most everything. So this is really just to give you an idea of some of the possibilities. Both of these, this one here and this one here, are entirely generic. They are vanilla. The only caveat is that the big miner here actually uses two different scripts. Now the interesting thing about scripts is you embed the script in the build. So you don't have to subscribe to it, you don't have to look for it, you don't have to know what it is. So one is the M Masters Automatic LCDs 2. The other one, let me look up the name because I want to make sure I have the name correct for you. Well, it's called the battery status script, and this one happens to be V1.1, and it's from Light Wolf Adventures. And you can find both of these scripts are on the workshop, so I highly recommend them, and we'll actually look at some of the things that they do briefly. This is not really a tutorial about those, but wanted to let you know I will probably go ahead and put this up on my Steam Workshop. It is a monster, but it does what it needs to do. So it's I want to say survival ready from the perspective of if you want to do some pretty serious mining, this thing would definitely do that. Is it the most graceful, elegant beast out there? Not hardly, but it gets the job done. So, having said all that, let's kind of briefly look at. I'm sorry, let me get my my off-screen window where I need it to be. So what this one, of course, you can see it's ion powered, 5 by 7 on the back there, and okay, folks, my apologies. I'm gonna turn my head over to my other screen here for half a second. I upload videos when I'm doing other things. So what I want to do is get my next video uploading while I am completely lost in Space Engineers. So that's there, and I do apologize. ground signal. Should we go over there? I'm running Space Master here. Obviously, we're doing creative stuff. Well, creative stuff in a survival environment is teleport. Air control. One not really moving. Let's see, what do we get, if anything? Nope, nothing. This is to keep myself from killing myself. And teleport to coordinates 0, 0, 0, which is the center of my little universe here. And the reason I did that is because I'm going to paste this over here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Alright, so let's have a look. So we have a 5x7 grid back here. Why did we do 5x7? More than 5x7. Nope, 5x7. The problem with any large vehicle is really to have enough thrust force to move yourself around. Sorry, I'm yawning on you again. So the challenges is picking your thrusters that you want to use given the environment that you intend to be in. In this case, I wanted obviously space only, it's ions, so you have to be in space, and then it becomes a matter of the effectively gross mass. So the ship, the dead weight of the ship is one thing, dead weight of the vessel, but this is a miner, so you are ultimately mining ore, and you want to transport that ore ultimately to somewhere and be able to work with it effectively. Neither of these miners, the big one or this one, have any sort of refining capability. So they are just a miner. That's all they do. That's all they know how to do. So in this particular one, again, not very graceful. We basically have our drills. Really a big array of drills. This one's kind of the same, big array of drills. Do a couple things here, a little bit of housekeeping. Spotlights, we're going to turn those off. And actually we're going to do the same thing over here. So sorry, a little bit of an interruption there. Spotlights off. Just to keep ourselves from going blind. Spotlights is a good thing to have when it comes to your drills. And the reason why miners drills, the reason why is you want to be able to see. This particular one is not equipped with cameras. This guy is. So this one not only has remote control capability, but cameras. This one has remote control capability. If you didn't see, it's right here behind the cockpit. But it does not have cameras, which means if you're trying to pilot this from 48,000 meters away, you're going to have a little bit of trouble trying to steer the thing in and around everything because there's no cameras. Alright, so we have some basic functions here, and this is again a basic miner function. Obviously it is a vessel, it moves, so we have our basic requirements of power, gyros, and thrusters. Okay. So we have 4 sets of 5 that are directional. So it's an array of basically a 6x6 array up here. So 5 wide and, well, technically a 7x7 array, I guess, if we want to really get technical. So 5 in every direction. So 5 down, 5 port side, 5 starboard side, 5 up. Up, down, port, and starboard. We have 10 reactors. So as you can see here, we have these guys on this side. We have these guys on this side. And actually, I think I'm a liar because I see some more in there. Let's see, well, at least one more. So there are 6 on each side. So I think that means 12. But let's look, just for fun. Reactors. Let's go ahead and turn that on. I don't know if I numbered them or not. Oh, a lot more than that. It looks like 16 reactors, but they're small reactors, so they are not nearly as capable. 15 megawatts versus the 100 megawatts of the big guys. So on. So we know where the 12 are. I don't know if that means we've got some more buried. Where are the other ones buried? We've got cargo containers all the way back. I still only see 6 on each side. Where did we put the other ones? Gyros. That cargo container goes all the way to the back. Huh. Where are the other 4? Unless I'm miscounting here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I see oxygen in there. Unless they're center line. Huh. Well. Or they're misnumbered. One or the other. Entirely possible. So, one of the problems here, just for sake of looking, if you can see in here, so this particular reactor, and these are mirrored side to side, this particular reactor is plugged onto looks like something forward. Then it connects to this outer one here, which then elbows up. This one elbows into this one, this one elbows into this one, this one elbows into this one. So these guys are in a great big huge chain that connect it onto the machine here. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is as long as they're not damaged anywhere, then they're all interconnected. If there's a damage at the bottom, or you lose that bottom reactor or something, then you might lose some of your reactor capabilities. Alright, 6 gyros, so 3 top, 3 bottom. More that I see. We have a collector here, so that way if you do some hand mining, you can dump the stuff in here. We have a connector there, and my guess is that there is... Nope, just batteries on the bottom. So we have batteries on the bottom, batteries on the top. As you can see, we have a remote control, your cockpit. So obviously you have to roll this thing, just because of the large drill array on the front, you have to roll this thing using your V, so your external view. And of course you have your ore detector. Oh, sorry. Not an onion. Alright, what else do we have? We have 5 cargo containers here, as you can see. The sun in the camera. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all up here. Okay, what are these contraptions out to the side here? Well, these guys are stone ejectors. So what we have is, of course, this system is mirrored on the other side. So we call this the port stone ejector. And what does it do? Well, we have drain all, we have whitelist, and stone. So whitelist means this is the only thing going to go in there based on my active filter. So basically allow stone. Blacklist, of course, would be don't allow and then whatever this is. So don't allow blank means allow everything. If we look farther down, so we have containers here. So these are just small containers. That's all they are. So we basically pull stone from this entire assembly and feed it into these guys as much as they can handle, all the way up to full. Then what do these guys do? These guys, so you can see this is identical system on the other side. These guys, again, the port stone ejector system, and these are a throw out and collect all, which means they're going to collect from behind them, which is pulling out of those containers and throw it out. So these things are limited to their inventory size, which in this case is 24,000 liters. So they will pull in 24,000 liters and dump it out the bottom. So they can handle just a little bit of stone. Okay, so you've got 5 on that side, 5 on this side. So identical systems, port and starboard, for the ejection system. So this pulls the stone out of your main containers, puts them into these auxiliary containers, and then these connectors on the bottom will eject that stone out of these containers as fast as it can. So these things are usually the slow part. These guys can move quite a bit of stuff. But let's just for fun, how much can these? So this is actually very, very slow. 3,000 liters, so not very fast at all. And I'm on 3 times. So a sorter which can only deal with 1,000 liters at a time, not very efficient. But all right, so basic stuff. Miners, obviously, drills are going to be taking in ore or stone. They're pulling all of that in through into these guys. My guess is there's a sorter that is actually pulling it in. I usually build drills with sorters. So let's have a look. Stone ejection system. How about if I can spell? Oh, maybe not. So it's really just putting everything in. So that's a little strange. Oh, there we go. Connectors, all the drills, gyros, oxygen tank, remote controls. The oxygen tanks are just for you. Okay, so it's not really, I didn't renumber them, so it really is 12. Alright, so I'm not going totally mad. Just didn't renumber those. Alright, so what happens is that the drills will fill up and then push. So one of the game mechanics. They will push to the closest cargo containers connected, which are these, and it will push all the way back if it needs to before it starts dumping out the front. There is a collection script now running within the game, so it's basically at one time you would lose a certain amount of ore that was just kind of rolling around, and over time they actually incorporated to the point where the large drills, the ship drills, whether they be a small ship or a small ship, or rather a large grid or a small grid, would collect everything. So you didn't lose anything. You had those little chunks of stone that are graphic. They're not really there. Can't do anything with those. So kind of the ore collection script, which is still out there, which still functions on you as a character. So I still use that script. But anyway, So drills take in all the materials and then push it through into these containers. So basic, again, basic drill package. Basic miner. Large scale miner, but still basic miner. Okay, and we turn our attention over here. So we have 196 drills on the front. Let me go ahead and go out here to the edge so we can actually see some of these things. So what do we see here? We have spotlights all the way around the outside. We'll get that way. I'm not. You can see a little bit of the sun's corona, but that's about it. So we have 3 spotlights, 3 top, 3 side, port side, starboard side, and then 3 on the bottom. What do those things do? They light up the world in front so you can actually see what you're doing. There are 4 cameras facing forward. So we have upper, or rather dorsal, ventral, and then port and starboard. We also have cameras that are facing up. So your dorsal side camera literally faces up. So you can really look and see what you're going through as you're mining. We also have a ventral camera that's facing down. You have a port side camera that's facing port. You have a starboard side camera facing starboard. So all these 4 cameras on the front, or the front facing cameras, are to give you a perspective on where you're lined up with your hole, that sort of thing. And as you can see, so here's, for example, the starboard side camera, the dorsal camera, port side camera here, and of course the ventral camera here. Alright, this one has also a stone ejection system. So it has 4 sorters along the bottom. Why 4 sorters? Well, as you saw on the other one, they have a 3,000 liter capacity, so that's 3,000 liters per second. So taking in the sheer amount of stone that this drill package is capable of bringing in, 1 would never keep up. In fact, 4 don't keep up, but hey. So little more complicated drill package. Obviously we are running hydrogen on this particular one, which means we need quite a bit more generation capability. In this case we have 5 oxygen generators here. There are 3 in a row across here, and there's actually 2 more. There's one underneath this LCD panel, and then there's one right here. So we have 4 hydrogen tanks and a bunch of large containers, and we'll get into all that in a bit. We have, looks like 12 gyros, 6 port, 6 starboard. So we're obviously looking at the starboard side here. And then we have a boatload of hydrogen thrusters. So these are our 4 directions, up, down, port, starboard. And then we have our rear facing thrust here, and our forward thrust here. And we also have a aft camera, so we can see behind us. We also have 2 connectors. We have a upper connector and a lower connector that let us connect onto whatever and dock. We have my patented thing on a miner is to always have a collector. The reason why I say a collector is because if you ever have to, for example, dig yourself out, then you drill up by hand, and then you need a place to put this material. So there it is, conveniently. Yes, you can go to a connector and put it in manually, but you just drop it. Of course, the challenge is in a no gravity environment, you can get right above it and then plunk it out from your inventory. And as long as you are pretty much nose into this thing, then it will pull that material in. Alright, so we were going to talk briefly about the scripts. So this is M-Master's automatic LCD 2 scripts. So we have all kinds of information on here. We have power systems over here to the left side. We also have our 1 large reactor. So currently we can see that the reactors are 300 megawatt capable. Didn't think that was 100 megawatts. I thought they were 100, but maybe not. We've got batteries. We actually have 41 batteries, in fact. We have, yeah, we just have reactors and batteries. So right now the reactors are not doing anything. The batteries are powering everything. Power time. So power time is the calculation of when will you run out. Now that normally shows up on your HUD. If you run your HUD, you can see my HUD is on. You don't have any of those numbers because I'm not attached to a ship. So 81 days, 87 days, and then also it gives you your reactor status. So the reactor is in fact on, so that's always a good thing. And this particular reactor, depending on what your inventory is, times 3 or either times 1, times 3, or times 10, depending on what your inventory is actually set up as. Depends on how much uranium ingot you can actually put into your reactor. Obviously, that's going to scale according to what you have settings wise. So this shows you a scalar of how much uranium is actually in that reactor, so you can kind of see it visually in front of you on the screens. Cargo capacity. Right now, we have 18.5 million liters capable. We have about 4.1 million liters in the containers. So about 22.4% of our capacity is currently being consumed. So when I built this thing, used it, and then, as they say, put it away wet. So there's still material in here. So if we look a little to our green panel here, we can see astronomical data. So what does this mean? Well, GPS location, I'm at 14 by 156 by 58, approximately. My current speed is 0. I'm stationary. I have 5 generators, as I told you before. What does that mean? Well, there's 5 generators. They're all on, as you can see there. Generator 1 through 5 are all listed as on. There's also a display for how much ice is in each one of those, so you can watch and see what happens. Down at the bottom there, you see oxygen storage. Now, oxygen is just going to be used for you, basically. So you are drawing oxygen when you're sitting in the cockpit. Hydrogen, you also draw hydrogen, but more critically, hydrogen is being used by the beast. So you want to definitely watch your hydrogen levels as you are mining. You will run out. Guarantee you will run out. Hydrogen, you go through hydrogen very, very quickly. That's the downside of the hydrogen thrusters. They are very powerful, but they will run out on you. Okay, so briefly, I was going to tell you about the batteries. I've just started playing with this battery script. So the battery panel here shows you all of your batteries. So there's 4 rows of 10. It will scale, for the most part, according to how many batteries that you have. So in this case, it can have up to 50 batteries on these smaller panels. On a wide panel, you can have up to 100 batteries. What does that really mean? Well, if you have a build that has multiple hundreds of batteries, you have to go in and actually have multiple designators. And then you can basically, this group of 100 is on this display, this group of 100 is on this display. And you do that by designating the different, basically the different statuses on each battery. And then you can outline it. And Little Wolf, I think, does actually have a tutorial video on how to do that. You actually go in and change the script. The neat thing about this script, you do not need a timer block to go with it. It just runs. So you basically put in your timer or your programmer block, put the script in it, boom, done. It starts and runs. So pretty good stuff. So we're gonna sit in here briefly. There's two reasons for that. I wanted to recharge my stuff, get my power back up here, and also to show you what this looks like when you're mining. So when you're sitting here, you can see everything that you have as far as ore. So I have 2.7 million in iron ore. I have uranium, 6.7 million of uranium, and I have 1.9 million in ice. And I think that 1.9 million is likely what's in the oxygen generators. Alright. So obviously we can see all of our different status panels, but these bars here are definitely in our way. So this is, again, when you are programming your toolbars for doing whatever you're doing on your miner. Pardon me. You're going to, program this how you like. So in this case, we have our drills on and off. Slot 2 and 3 is, my guess is that's the upper and then lower. Yeah, port upper and port lower. Now, this is my convention because that attraction thing, that magnetic lock on connectors, you have about 2 or 3 seconds to pull away when you have disconnected. Otherwise, that magnetic thing comes back off, and it actually is pretty challenging to pull away. So what I do is unlock and then turn it off, which is what the 2 and 3 is all about. So 2 is your locked unlocked, so swap lock. Number 3 is on off. So I do a 2-3 combination, which will unlock me and turn off the connector. That way I don't have that magnetic attraction. I can pull away from the station or whatever it is I'm docked to at my leisure. So I do that conventionally with all of my main connectors. Is I have my swap lock and power swap, so power toggle. 6 is actually the stone ejection system. So even though it shows that generic multiple device thing, that's what number 6 actually is this ejection system. So let me roll the mouse over there. So stone ejection system, which actually turns on the sorters as well as the collectors that are on the bottom, or the connectors that are on the bottom that are throwing out everything. Number 7, of course, is your ore detector on-off, antenna on-off, and remote control on-off, or autopilot, I guess it is. Wow. Okay. Not sure why I did autopilot. Number 2 is all of our different cameras. So we still have drills, and then we have our various cameras here. So this is forward upper view, port view, forward starboard view, and forward lower view. So these are all 4 of my forward facing cameras. My spotlights on or off. Oxygen generators, typically what I will do is have them draw or not draw, which is really to say, are they connected to the conveyors or not? Batteries is recharge, so I can set those to auto recharge, or force them rather to go into charge mode. And then this is use conveyor system. So basically use conveyor system on or off, and this one is also the same, use conveyor system on or off. Sometimes you want to store some ice. So in this case is I am storing my ice, or I'm pulling all the ice that I go through into my generators. So usually I will run this thing up to max, my generators, and then I will store the rest. So basically I turn them off on the conveyor system and then go from there. Alright, so that is basically what it looks like in the cockpit. See, number 3 is all of the cameras. So now we have our major, oops, oh, I want to do that. So these are our actual direction facing cameras. So we have forward, aft, port, starboard, dorsal, and ventral. So let me go ahead and go into view. We're going to turn off some of my thrusters. And why did I do that? If you are not wanting to use up your hydrogen, then shutting off all of your thrusters is a good idea. So especially when you are needing to build up hydrogen thrusters, of course, burn hydrogen even when you're idle. So you're not doing anything, you're sitting in space, not moving, they're still burning a certain amount of hydrogen. So as long as your oxygen generators are keeping up, then no biggie. But if you're actually going to be moving, then so I just put those buttons on there to give you a way to shut those down. On some of my other builds, I'll actually do maneuvering thrusters, which make it a lot easier to dock because you turn off all of your mains and then you have just enough thruster to actually move you slightly. In this case, because this thing is the monster, you can see my HUD. I am not moving very fast. So the only one that actually has some significant thrust is that forward. So, alright, 4, nothing on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4, 9, nope, nothing. Alright, so basic setup here. So, climbing out. The last thing I want to talk about here is the stone ejection system. Currently turned off, so these should all be, oh, not, they're on. So the stone ejection system, yes indeed, it is on. So you saw all those turn red, and you should see these guys go red, which is actually why you've got that generic display on here. You've got the 4 sorters, and then you've got these 12. Is it 12? Oh, it's 16 ejectors, or what they're connectors I'm using as ejectors. Alright, so having said all of that, let us focus on actually seeing what the guts of this look like. It is not nearly as complicated as it seems. We've got our single antenna over here that's just straight corner blocks and attached on. Again, a stock. Everything on this ship is stock. There's not anything not stock, less those 2 scripts, which are embedded. Okay, so even if I put this on the workshop, which I probably will, everybody has to have a miner up on the workshop. Actually, I already have a small miner in the workshop, so I guess I've done that already. I don't think this one's up there, but we'll see. All right, so let's get into the guts of this thing. This one is actually pretty simple, not a whole lot here. So this is your drills up here. All the way around it, even though these kind of take a performance hit, we have all these rows of conveyors. Nothing but conveyor after conveyor after conveyor. Why did I do that? It made everything really, really simple as far as how to connect everything in. So obviously I needed a way to connect all of these thrusters in, as well as get materials out of the front. Alright, so let me shift over to my building screen here, and we're going to need to pull in a couple things. I need a large container. I need a hydrogen tank. I actually need hydrogen thrusters because we're going to put thrusters back on. I already have an oxygen tank here. I already has an oxygen generator, and we can get rid of those things. Oxygen generators. I think that is about it. Oh, we need a connector. Connectors. So our stock connector here, and the reason why that is I have removed. So let's look here. So if you look here, get rid of that connector off your screen. The top connector, so the upper connector and lower connector actually are attached onto the hydrogen thrusters. So when I got rid of these hydrogen thrusters for this tutorial video, actually got rid of those two guys. So I'm going to have to put those guys back on. Now, it's a little hard to see, okay, but we actually have 5 in a row. Okay, so there's one up here, another one, another one, another one, another one. Okay, so really we have 4 rows of 5 things. Okay, so keep that in your mind. 4 rows of 5 things. Now, keeping in mind these containers are 3 by 3 by 3. Okay, so there's a lot of space here. I have removed most everything from the other machines so we could see what's in here. So let's do some looking. So here's our 5 oxygen generators. Okay, so these 2 and then these 3. Now you notice I've got a row of conveyors. And there's actually 9 conveyors here. So let's go in here and look up 9 conveyors. So that connects me in. So obviously all of these conveyor junctions are connected all the way through. So the first thing I'm going to do is, obviously big reactor here, right? So it is connected in via the front. So it has a connection here. So as soon as I put a large container in here, in fact, let's go ahead and do that just for fun. So I just want to make sure my containers are facing the right way, which they are. And we're going to put one container there and one container there. That's the beginning of our containers. So effectively we have now connected our reactor into our system. Okay. Now, what are we doing here? Well, these are all oxygen tanks. So we're going to do basically the same thing. We're going to put 6 oxygen tanks here. Why did I do that? Well, that is my 3 by 3. So I could either put more oxygen generators, which actually would not be a good idea because this is hydrogen thrusters. It's going to burn an awful lot. The only oxygen user in this case is the guy sitting in the cockpit. So it would actually be more intelligent to have 3 more of these guys. Let me look and see how these are. Yep, facing the right way. So, 1, 2, 3. So 3 oxygen tanks should be plenty. All right. Okay, I turn these. Oh, because they're backwards. All right. So I might be a little low on ice by the time I'm done here. The reason why I'm a little low on ice, in fact, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do a K to get into the system. I have thruster small, and I'm going to turn those off. All of my large thrusters, of course, were deleted, so they already vanished. There's no group there. And go ahead and add all of these guys into the oxygen generators group. Let me go ahead and do a me. Yes. And we have oxygen generators here. So we have these generators, which we're going to go ahead and add to the oxygen generator group. Say, turn it off on the toolbar, off on this. Oxygen tanks. So I do tanks, oxygen. And I turn those completely off. Unless you do refill bottles and auto refill, there is no accessible inventory that you can actually do anything with. So I mean, you can use it, but you can only store bottles in it. That's all you can store in there. Okay, so let me go ahead and turn the LCD system to off. Make sure I got everything. So the battery and battery programmer block I did not add in here. We'll do that now. Is it LCD systems? There we go. Save. Toolbar off. Terminal off. So those should have disappeared. Yes, they did. Okay, so we have our first two containers that are behind there. So we have our first, so our containers are the first of the 5, remember? And let's go ahead and add 4 large containers down here. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. So if we peek back in here, dramatic music going in the background. This is just the stock Space Engineers. So, all right. So there's all 6 of our containers so far. Now, one of the things that we are going to need to do is hydrogen tanks. So using this one as our guide, because I want to make sure, is 4 hydrogen tanks. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's go ahead and put those 4 tanks back in here. Well, you know what? Well, I screwed up. So we had those 4 sorters that were all connected in. I used an elbow into this center, and you can see these are all small cargo containers, exactly like we did on the other vessel over there. So those sorters are constantly dumping stone, just like we did before. So let's go ahead and verify. So we're looking for the stone ejection system. We're going to turn that on in the terminal, out and back in, so we refresh our view. Connector. Okay, so that's our collector there. But our connector, these are all of the connectors that are the ejection connectors. Okay, so we see collect all and throw out, right? So what does collect all do? Pulls in from that back connector, that coupler. So every single one of those has a small cargo container behind it. So it's pulling in from that small cargo container, or any of those small cargo containers that it has access to when it needs it. And then throw out dumps it. So that's basic configuration there. Pull it all in and throw it all out. So this is for the coupler side. This is for the actual connector side. All right, our sorters, 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're all doing the same thing. What are they doing? Drain all, pull it all in. We're whitelisting because we only want whatever we select. Stone. Okay, we want to leave everything else exactly where it is. All right, so that's our stone ejection system. Simple. There's nothing complex about it at all. And turn it off on the terminal. All right. What else do we see here? We have batteries all the way down the sides. So batteries. Let me go ahead and go down so we can see up. You see a boatload of batteries up here as well. What are these conveyors for? So these two guys are connected in over here, and ultimately this guy connects. Nope, sorry. So these guys are floating right now. They are not connected to anything. So right where I'm pointing the reticle there is where that cargo container, or actually the hydrogen container in this case, the hydrogen tank, is going to be sitting. So there's no connection point there. So this actually is going to come back to the next hydrogen container and connect these two guys in. So these guys are connected across, but this guy is actually what connects these. So this is conveyor junctions to connect in to the hydrogen system. Otherwise these guys are floating. What is this over here? This is the junction which goes up to the cockpit. Okay, so that way the cockpit is connected into the system. This one you see is parallel with this one. So the reason it is sitting here is to connect this one in to, in this case, the gases. Back here is the collector. So you can see how it connects everything in. Programmer blocks, there's 2 programming blocks here and 1 timer block. This is the LCD script. This is the timer which keeps that LCD script running through. So this is basically a run and terminate. This timer runs it, it terminates, the timer runs it again, terminates, runs it again, terminates, back and forth. This is your battery script. Alright, so that's how this is built. We have our chassis, so a little bit more elegant than this one way over here. So this one was just built to have something, a chassis. This one at least has a little bit more elegance to it, if you can call such a monster elegant even slightly. Okay, let's put on our hydrogen tanks. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those sideways. Nope, I don't know if there's really any easy way to do that. So we want 4 of them. There's our 4 hydrogen tanks. And on this side we have our 4 cargo containers that all interconnect. Got the green, so let's go ahead and put them in. Alright. So, if we're counting, we now have 4 of 5 on every row, right? So we've got this one up here that you can't see. We've got the next one, so there's 2, 3, and 4. Same thing up here, we've got a cargo container way up in the front there. Then this reactor that provides the power for this thing, and then 2 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so all we have left back here are 4 more. We turned it green. So 4 more containers, and then done. Now the simple is thrusters. So 7. Just a small thruster. And we want a big thruster. We're going to turn that guy around. We're going to connect them directly on. And also, there's 4 of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Should light off almost immediately. And then we're going to do 1 and 2. We can get it to line. 1 and 2. Make sure I don't roast myself. There's 1 and 2. And then we have the opposite facing thrusters, 1 and 2. Load on. Losing control. And 2. So that is our reversing thrusters and our forward thrusters. So the first thing that we want to do is find a place where we can do that. That's just any control panel will do. Okay. We're going to once again do a Control A, select me. Then we have 4 hydrogen tanks, which are very slowly filling, and we're going to run out of ice long before we ever get there. So these are tanks, hydrogen, save, and we're going to turn those off as well all the way across the board. We have all of these containers, so we have 14 containers. Is that about right? So we're going to go ahead and call those, perhaps some irony, containers. And we're going to turn them off on the toolbar and off in the terminal. Don't need to have those anywhere. So containers. These containers are separate, which is why they're on a separate group. So containers. Alright, and now we have large hydrogen thrusters. So we have the 8 facing aft, and we have the 4 2-port to starboard facing forward for a total of 12 thrusters. So these are our thrusters, large. I think I had a thrusters small group, off and off. It's thruster. So let's change that to be thruster large, and then we will delete thrusters large. So if I was consistent, then I'll actually still have a button on my dashboard. All right. So what have we done here? The only thing we have left to do is to connect this onto something. Right? So I'm still missing my connectors. So let's go ahead and add those connectors in. We have one here and one at the bottom. The first thing we need to do is convert those over to me. And then what I want to do is go ahead and be conventional in how I name these, so I'm going to go look on these two. Okay, this is called connector port upper. Control C that. Come over here. So you can't paste anything if your cursor is not in the box, which means we also apparently did not capture this because that was a paste from. So port upper, Control C. Try it again. Only the developers of Space Engineers would actually play Space Engineers. Hey, there it is. Okay. My guess is that's going to be port lower. this one. So we're gonna say lower. Alright. So we have somewhat rebuilt our machine here. So let's go ahead and look. Nope, they all fell off the world. Okay, my ejection system is still there. So, port lower, port upper. So, switch lock, and on off, switch lock, and on off. On off. Not that one. Port. Oops. Port on off. This is lower, lower, on off. Alright, I oopsed. Okay, and everything else should still be there. Yes, indeed. So our cargo mass is falling because we're burning ice. Alright, so let's go out of this. Let's do a V. Oh, wrong button. Alright, so 8 and 9. Eight are our smalls, 9 are the bigs. Alright. So, we're going to leave those off because we're burning through ice at a astronomical rate. So we can see our hydrogen tanks are at 11%, but the reality is we are down to, exit, we are down to our last, you can see my last two generators here. And of course the other 3 generators are not on this list. We can eventually put them there, but so we're not burning very fast. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me look at the oxygen generators. I'm going to turn those on real quick. I know we're starting to burn into the next portion of, so we're just a hair over the hour there. Oxygen generators. Huh. What happened? Oxygen generators are not showing. Generators. Oh wow, those aren't even connected on here. Save. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Good. So we know those are there, and we can turn this off. So they should not be on our screen. Yes, they are. So oxygen generators, and we will do a config off and a terminal off. And they should have, yes, disappeared now. Alright, so we need to do a little creative programming here, custom data. So all this stuff here is for my oxygen generators. So what I want to do is do 3 generators. So we're going to take 3, 4, and 5, do a control C, and then paste those in. And this one's going to be 8, 8. This one's going to be 7, 7. And this is going to be 6. And we do an OK. And in a moment that should update. There they are. So pushed everything down, but now we're seeing all of those generators. And you can see we are completely out of ice. So I'm going to do a little cheating here. Okay, what I want to do is see how much we can hold 1,000,000 liters. Alright, so inventory, insert ice, and I'm going to start out at 1,000,000 just to see what this will do liters wise. Inventory. So 741. So I should be able to hold about 5,000,000 more, right? Not quite. Oh, didn't like that either. Alright, so I guess that's all the ice that this can deal with. I'm going to do an inventory. Alright, yep, way up there. Alright, so what we should see, so these guys went to max, which isn't very much. So 28K. So apparently I was running these at, they are pulling in slowly. So the good news is all the oxygen generators are pulling ice in via the storage system. And very slowly my hydrogen is filling up. So effectively we have built ourselves, you can see these top 5 we're going to be able to see. So all of these generators we can see are connected. That aqua color, that cayenne color, is telling me that they have ice and they are generating. So red means no power, yellow means I don't have any ice, green means I have ice but there's no draw, so there's no demand, and then this cayenne color means I am producing, and of course to produce you have to have ice. So alright, so this is basically the machine. Our large miner, 196 drills up here, configured with 8 oxygen generators. So it's going to take a little while to fill up the hydrogen, but they'll get there. Alright, so with that little project complete, this is Kenty Tiger signing off. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.